Hey, so this video we're going to be talking about Eezo, or Element Zero, from the Mass Effect series. Now, if you're concerned about spoilers, I'm going to talk about Mass Effect Andromeda at the end, so I'll give you plenty of warning. And if you haven't seen my video on space-time, then I can kind of recommend you watch it. It's not 100% necessary, but it will definitely help with some of the concepts. So jumping right in, a few of the background things we need to go over. The first big one is dark energy. So dark energy and dark matter get confused a lot, with good reason. They are not very creative names. But they are not the same thing. So dark matter is totally separate. That was first kind of discovered when we talked about seeing weird gravitational effects in the universe, that we don't see anything there. There should be something there, but we don't see anything. That's dark matter. We'll go into that in another video. Dark energy is completely separate from that. They're both similar names just because we don't know much about them. So dark energy comes from the idea that our universe is expanding. Not only is it expanding, but it's actually getting faster as it expands. So Hubble was the first one to discover that the universe was expanding. And then in the 90s, cosmologists discovered that not only was our universe expanding, but it was expanding faster. So what is causing that expansion? That's dark energy. Basically the idea that something has to be pushing our universe apart. You can picture blowing up a balloon. That air, that would be kind of the dark energy. We sometimes refer to it as negative pressure. So I hope that kind of makes sense a little bit. I can go into more detail, but we're here to talk about Mass Effect and Eezo, so I'm going to jump into that. The next thing we need to go over is E equals mc squared. So Einstein came up with this equation. I've got a tattoo of it back here. And it's a beautiful equation. It's amazing. Tattoo worthy. And the reason is because what it's laying out, everyone's heard it, but if you really think about it, it's energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. Break that down. So you have an object, you have some matter. You have a spoon, you have a truck, anything. That's mass, that's matter. All you do is you take the mass in that spoon, whatever amount of grams that it is, just multiply that by the speed of light squared. So the speed of light is 3 times 10 to the 8, square that, multiply that by the mass, and then you are left with how much energy is stored in that spoon. That's a pretty amazing equation, right? So Eezo. In the Mass Effect lore, humans discover Element Zero, or Eezo. I'm going to say Eezo, because Element Zero all the time is boring. Humans discovered Eezo when they discovered the Prothean runes on Mars. So this is before seeing the Erin mass relay. This is when humans discover the Prothean runes and they discover Element Zero, the refined Element Zero. They actually use that to be able to travel faster than light. So that's kind of where it came from on Earth. But where it actually comes from in Mass Effect lore is when a star explodes, when it goes supernova, when it's a really massive star, what happens is the force from that, all this energy is being radiated outwards, and they explain Element Zero as being sort of a product of all of this matter that suddenly gets blasted with all of this energy that's coming from an exploding sun. So that's where they say Element Zero comes from. And then humans found refined Element Zero in the Prothean runes, and that's how they developed faster than light travel before they discovered the mass relay. How Element Zero works is that you can run a current through it, so just an electrical current, and what it does when you run a current through it, it manipulates a dark energy field. So this is how we get to be sneaky and use dark energy, to simulate an increase or decrease in mass. So again, E equals mc squared. If you want to bend space-time, you need mass. Mass will bend space-time. But because energy and mass are equivalent, if you get an equivalent amount of energy, then you don't really need the mass. You can bend space-time as you please. It's one way of thinking about it. So in theory, if you run a current through Element Zero, it manipulates dark energy to increase or decrease mass. You get a mass effect. Mass effect. That's where the name comes from. But seriously, that's how it works. So positive current through Element Zero will simulate an increase in mass. Negative current run through element 0 will simulate a decrease in mass. Why do we care? Why would we take the time to write about it in a video game and then me take the time to learn about it? Well, you can do some cool stuff with it. The humans, like I said, first used it. They found refined element 0, and they used it to discover faster than light travel. The whole idea is you can create sort of a warp bubble. You can bend space-time around. Remember, mass bends space-time. You can use energy to bend space-time. In Mass Effect, you can manipulate mass to simulate and warp space-time that way. And so you can travel faster than light through that by just building yourself a little warp bubble. Now, another thing they can do is if you can simulate the presence of mass, you can create artificial gravity. So if you think about it, when you're running around on the Normandy, eavesdropping on all your squad's conversations, you're running around like normal, in theory. How? Right? You're traveling through space. Well, this works because you have Eezo in the bowels of the Normandy and you're running a current through them to simulate an increase in mass, making it seem like there's the equivalent mass of a planet underneath you, so you're running around normally. You can actually minimize this, just like when Shepard's running around Mars, Prothean runes on Mars in Mass Effect 3. You're running around normally. You shouldn't be, because Mars has 1/3 of the gravity of Earth, so it should take you 3 times as long between strides and 3 times as long to kind of move and come back down, which is boring as hell. So we put Eezo in our boots, run a current through them, simulate more matter, gives you artificial gravity. The other place that we see it is biotics, that they're exposed to element 0 in the womb, and then they have the ability to manipulate mass fields. So I like to compare that to like the gravity gun from Half-Life. You can kind of compare that to how biotics work. Obviously you can do some awesome things with that, but that's kind of the fundamental why element 0 is useful. Briefly talking about Mass Effect Andromeda, so if you care, spoilers, the Scourge. When you come across the Scourge, Sam first says, it's solid dark energy. And me playing the game go, ooh, that's not a thing. But actually, if you like read the codex and think about it, all he's saying is that it's a hell of a lot of radiated Eezo is what's going on. So the Helios cluster has a massive black hole in the middle. I'll go into that in another video. But that massive black hole would have come from an exploding star. Or a few different stars that have exploded all had their own black holes and those black holes merged. Because you have a 12 solar mass spinning black hole in the center of the Helios cluster. That's not insignificant. That would come from massive exploding stars. Remember, Eezo comes from supernova, exploding stars. And so the theory is that when these stars exploded to create the black hole, or holes that then merged, they produced a ton of Eezo. And if you remember playing Andromeda, there's a lot of Eezo that you run into, a lot more than in the Milky Way. So you find all of this Eezo. Helios cluster is hugely populated with it. Then comes along the Jardin. So remember, the Jardin idea was that they created the Scourge from testing their weapon. And this kind of works. So if you imagine that the stars exploding created a ton of Eezo in the Helios cluster, then what happens is the Jardin tests their weapon. What that weapon does is ends up radiating all of that Eezo. So all of the Eezo is suddenly radiated, which means it has a charge to it, or electrical current. As this weapon pounds through, not only does it kind of create this weird structure, but it irradiates it, which means that you have pockets of positive charge and negative charge Eezo. That is absolutely going to create weird gravity fields. Remember, because if it's positively charged, it seems like there's more mass. If it's negatively charged, it's reducing mass. So if you're thinking about space-time now, you suddenly have all these warped space-time with tons of unpredictable gravitational wells that are 100% going to screw up your ship. So the science behind the Scourge actually kind of works, and I'm kind of behind it. So anyway, that's element 0 in Mass Effect. I hope that explains some things, maybe cleared some stuff up. It's fun to think about, and Shepard was right. Catch you next time.